Hare Krishna. Welcome back, everyone, to our continuing series of discussions on the Bhakti Yoga journeys. So, today we'll continue with the theme of the festivals that are around. We are going to discuss the life and the significance of a very special personality in this tradition. His name is Srila Madhavendra Puri. So, he is a very, very special personality in this tradition, and he has there's so much to internalize from his life and pastimes. So today we thought we'll dedicate this class to know about this great personality. So the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition started by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So broadly, we can understand the history of this tradition in three periods of time. There was the pre-Chaitanya era, then there was the Chaitanya era, including the time when the Goswamis of Vrindavan, the main disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, were around, right? And then there was the post-Chaitanya era, which also is continuing now, which also went through a lot of turbulent times, a lot of distortions in the tradition, and a lot of revival all had to happen in the 17th century and in late 18th century, right? So this is roughly the history of the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. And very interesting to note that there is a pre-Chaitanya connection also to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. In fact, Gaudiya Vaishnavism in itself is, you could say, a branch. It has its origins in the Madhva tradition, started by Srila Madhvacharya. And if you have seen our, the book Bhagavad Gita, and if you see Prabhupada writes his whole lineage starting from Krishna and then Brahma to Narada, Vyasa, and then Madhvacharya's name comes, and there's a whole list of acharyas who are specifically from the Madhva tradition, right? And then you will see at a later point, you'll see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name there. So the understanding is what makes the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya tradition so special. So during the Gaur Purnima festival class, we discussed how the unique contribution of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the world of Vedic theology is this concept of bhakti, loving service to the Supreme Lord in the mood of separation. This is the main theme that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in fact, the Nam Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy names, the Sankirtan that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced, Sankirtan as a concept has always existed. Chanting of the holy names has always been seen as a very glorious process. But the specific mood of chanting, the specific mood of utterance of the holy names in the mood of surrender, like the mood of the Vrajavasis who are calling out to Krishna in separation, that is a very, very special, unique contribution, you can say, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given to us. So, oftentimes, historians and scholars, they try to decode that, is this something, this mood of loving separation, is it something that started with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And not so. In fact, that's where the pre-Chaitanya era comes in. Because if you look at the history and the mood of the philosophical mood of the Madhva tradition, technically they are known as the Tattvavadis. The Tattvavadis, Madhvacharya, he is properly known as a proponent of the Dvaita philosophy, right? But specifically, the actual technical name of the tradition of the philosophy is called Tattvavadi. Tattvavadi because Madhvacharya, he has very expertly delineated the different tattvas, right? Tattva means the different ontological truths, right? What is the proper understanding of Ishvara? What is Prakriti? What is Jiva? How there is a proper distinction between Ishvara and Jiva, Ishvara and Prakriti, Jiva and Prakriti. Even between Jiva and Jiva, there is difference, and even different elements of Prakriti also there's a difference. So all these tattvas he has very, very expertly he has delineated. So therefore it's called Tattvavada philosophy. And so in the Tattvavada system, the mood of worship of Lord Krishna is very much in the mood of awe and reverence. and it is also centered around lot of rituals, especially practicing the varnashram dharma, basically according to one's social order and one's spiritual order. Each of us, we have certain duties and responsibilities and certain kind of Vedic practices that one needs to, imbibe in their life and follow in their life. So the focus is mostly around that kind of a perfect Vedic ritualistic lifestyle with a mood of devotion and offering things to Krishna. That is the mood there. But the mood of conjugal rasa, the mood of love and separation, this is something which is not present in the Madhva philosophy, in the Madhva tradition. And that is where this very, very special personality about whom we are going to talk comes in. Srila Madhavendra Puri, Madhavendra Yati also sometimes is referred to as, he took his Diksha in the Madhva tradition, but Chaitanya Charitamrita explains him as the seed of the tree of this devotional love. Eventually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described as the trunk of this tree, but the seed of this tree, it came from Srila Madhavendra Puri. That is what's so special about him, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, during his time, he used to refer to certain predecessor acharyas. Like, for example, he used to talk about Madhavendra Puri, his own spiritual master, Ishwara Puri, and this very, very Bilvamangal Thakur's, he used to regularly quote him. His own book, Krishna Karanamrita, Mahaprabhu used to always carry it with him during his travels. Then Jayadev Goswami's Gita Govinda was another very important. So this mood of conjugal rasa, this mood of madhurya rasa, this mood of loving separation has been very, very, not in a very prominent way, but very subtly presented in isolation. Even some of the poetry of the great Vaishnava saints that time, like Vidyapati and Chandidas, even in their poetry also, you could find some traces of this mood of conjugal rasa and loving separation, right? However, Madhavendra Puri, he is the one who literally extolled this principle of loving separation. In fact, why Chaitanya Charitamrita calls him as this seed of this tree of devotional love, it is said that Madhavendra Puri, in his spiritual identity, it is described that all these exalted acharyas, these personalities, they are not just ordinary people, born in some karmic bondage, but they are highly empowered souls. They are all eternal associates of the Lord in Goloka, who descended to set the scene, to create the scene, right? Just like, for example, if you look at other Vaishnava traditions, before Ramanujacharya could spread this philosophy of Vishishta Advaita, Sripad Yamunacharya did lot of groundwork for him, right? Likewise, even in the Madhvacharya tradition also, before Madhvacharya brought the Dvaita philosophy and he spread the entire the Udupi Matha, his spiritual master also, he laid down the framework for him. So that way, Madhavendra Puri, he laid down the framework for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is, as we studied last time, he is Krishna himself, to come to create the scene. So clearly, and such an empowered personality cannot be an ordinary soul. It is described in the Gaudiya Vaishnava text that Srila Madhavendra Puri was none other than a very, very special Kalpavriksha in the spiritual world. Now, most of us at this point, if we are new to the concept of spiritual world and spiritual, connections, so you may be thinking, oh, he's a tree in the spiritual world. I thought he's some exalted gopi, or I thought he's some exalted, cowherd. Maybe he's some flute of Krishna, because everybody is sentient. All these are special personalities. So one may think, oh, he's a tree, right? But you see, think about it. What is so special about this tree? This tree has been a witness to some of the most amazing, intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. It is described that, first of all, not everybody could access Radha Krishna pastimes. So mainly it's the gopis, they were there assisting Radha and Krishna in their pastimes. But sometimes even the gopis had to leave, and Radha Krishna were assisted by these little manjaris. Manjaris are these little much younger girls than the gopis. So they used to assist Radha and Krishna in their pastimes. And it is these manjaris eventually who came as the great Goswamis and gave some exalted bhakti literature. But certain pastimes, even the manjaris could not witness. But the only personalities who could witness them were the trees of Vrindavan. And all the esoteric mood of the depth of the love of Srimati Radharani's heart could only be accessed, could only be witnessed by these special kalpavrikshas. And one such kalpavriksha tree is Madhavendra Puri. And this is so beautifully portrayed in the life of Madhavendra Puri, right? That there is a particular verse which I would like to project on your screen at this point. It is said that in the entire creation, there are only 3 personalities who can understand the depth of the meaning of this verse, right? Let's first read the verse. It's very, very famous verse which Srila Madhavendra Puri used to recite regularly. Ai Deena Dayadanatha he Mathura Natha Kadavalokasye Hidayam Tvad Aloka Kataram Daita Bhramati Kim Karomyaham. O my Lord, O merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? So actually, this is a verse which has been recited by Srimati Radharani herself. When Krishna left Vrindavan to go take care of Kamsa, at least that was the reason for which he went. And then after Kamsa was killed and sanity was restored in Mathura, Krishna saw that Kamsa was not just this one villain. There was a whole nexus of these demoniac personalities. And Krishna was in a dilemma because he told the residents of Vrindavan that before leaving that I'm going to come back. I'll just quickly deal with Kamsa. I will release my parents out of the prison and I'll just come back soon. In 2-3 days, I'll come back. But after going there and seeing the atrocities of Kamsa and getting to know about the deep criminal, the mafia nexus that he was part of, he realized, if I go back to Vrindavan now, not just me, but entire residents of Vrindavan will be under threat. Because in the last 13 years, Kamsa was releasing one of his henchmen, one after another, right? So much of calamities happened in Vrindavan. So many demons came and attacked. So Krishna realized that it's not safe for the residents of Vrindavan. It's not safe for them if I go back. Better I stay away and protect them, because here in Mathura, at least I have armies. I have, a whole system of military arrangement by which if, eventually Jarasandha, it actually happened. Krishna's calculation was perfectly right. Because Jarasandha and so many other personalities, they came. He attacked 17 times, right? So Krishna realized that it's not safe to go back to Vrindavan because Vrindavan is not a place for war. It's a place for love. So I cannot bring the war and the hostilities that are the political environment of Mathura. I don't want to bring it to Vrindavan. So Krishna, deciding that, he stayed back in Mathura and eventually went to Dwaraka, and the rest of Mahabharata story unfolds. But meanwhile, all the residents of Vrindavan, Krishna's Gopas, Gopis, they were all waiting for Krishna, thinking, oh, Krishna, 3 days. He said, maybe it'll take 6 days. Or maybe it'll take 1 month. Maybe it'll take 1 year. Or maybe it'll take 10 years. So like this, they ended up staying for 100 years. And this verse, now usually when we think of Radha Krishna's esoteric pastimes, people imagine all kinds of things. But this verse is the highest depth, manifestation of the highest depths of love that Srimati Radharani has for Krishna. And in that mood of separation, Radharani would just drift away alone into the grooves, into the forests of Vrindavan, and hugging a tree, because it is said there were special tamal trees in Vrindavan, and the complexion of the tamal tree would be exactly like Krishna. In fact, sometimes when some demons would attack, the gopis would go and hug these tamal trees thinking, oh, they look like Krishna, I'll get protection. That is how much they were in love with Krishna. They were so Krishna conscious that they could see even anything that has semblance of Krishna's complexion, they would see Krishna in there. So Radharani would be sitting under one of those trees and she recited this verse saying, Ai Dina Dayadranatha, because he's referring to Krishna as, oh, here you are, I am in a very pitiable condition in separation from you. So he's referring to Krishna as, oh, compassionate one, because I am suffering. For a suffering person, the only solace is a compassionate person. So he's referring Krishna in a very, very unique title as Ai Dina Dayadranatha, oh merciful master, oh compassionate one, right? And referring to him, Krishna, actually technically Krishna is Nandalal, he is Vrindavan Lal, he is Vrindavan Vihari. But here Radharani is specifically referring to Krishna as, hey Mathuranatha, because, oh Krishna, you are no more in Vrindavan, you forgot us completely, you have gone to Mathura and you have settled there. So indirectly, she, it's a kind of a loving anger. Right? It's called as a naika bhava. Sometimes, the beloved has the right to be angry towards the object of their love, right? So it's like a very subtle anger. So you can see it's a very, very mixed emotions of this anger. Should not be seen as some kind of a blasphemy or or some kind of a egoistic anger. But when love intensifies so much, one of the rasas that comes out is also anger. And in that very, very subtle mood, at the same time feeling very compassionate and sad and separation and anger. So these are very, very esoteric moods that are going on inside the heart of Srimati Radharani. And that Kalpavriksha tree was privy to all these, moods of Srimati Radharani. And that tree manifested in this world as Srila Madhavendra Puri. And this verse, in his final days, Madhavendra Puri, on his deathbed, he used to recite this verse in the same mood of separation. So Kaviraj Goswami, he very beautifully explains that in the entire creation, only 3 people could understand the inner meaning of this verse. One, Srimati Radharani, who actually recited this verse. 2, that Kalpavriksha tree, who is Madhavendra Puri, who understood the pain of Radharani and the mood of Radharani. And 3 is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Interesting, Kaviraj Goswami does not say Krishna understood the verse, because Krishna could never understand this verse. Because as Mathuranath, he could never understand the pain of Vrindavan. And that is why in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita is described one of the secret reasons, esoteric internal reasons, why Krishna decided to come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to experience the depth of love that Srimati Radharani has for him. Because Krishna was one day thinking, Arey, I am the Supreme Personality. How is it that my devotees are more happy in serving me than I am? There is greater joy in serving than in being served. How is this happening? I want to understand the heart of Srimati Radharani. And therefore, Krishna comes in the mood of Srimati Radharani as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to experience these esoteric devotional mellows. And therefore, not Krishna, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the third person who understood this. So in the entire creation, the real esoteric depth of this one verse is understood by Radharani, Madhavendra Puri, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore, you see, in order to honor Radharani, To access the heart of Radharani, you can only access it through the intimate associates of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided to come in the tradition of Madhavendra Puri to honor this. Because you see, bhakti is something that cannot be taught. It has to be caught. You can only catch it when you are exposed to those who are living that mood of bhakti, right? And that is where bhakti differs. It's not a technique oriented process, because matters of the heart cannot be taught. You can only sense them, and when you are in the presence of such people, you have to somehow catch their vibration and internalize it, and you cultivate your own internal mood. So Madhavendra Puri accessed that esoteric understanding in the heart of Srimati Radharani, and to honor that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came as a grand disciple of Madhavendra Puri. Again, here also very, very beautiful mood, right? Somebody could ask this question, that why did he not orchestrate the whole Leela in such a way that he becomes a direct disciple of Madhavendra Puri? If he really wanted to honor Radharani, why did he not come directly like that, right? Because yes, you may have a very, very exalted mood and very exalted spiritual master, but to access this esoteric mood, it has to happen only through the means of service. So Madhavendra Puri, he had many, many exalted disciples, but there was this one special disciple named Ishwara Puri who served Madhavendra Puri till his last breath. In fact, as I was mentioning earlier, in his final days, as Madhavendra Puri was just lying down on his deathbed, and in that ecstatic devotional mood, thinking himself as in that mood of Radharani, Ai Deenanath, thinking himself in a very pitiable condition, he was crying out to Krishna that, hey Mathuranath, where are you? I'm not able to access you, I'm not able to see you. Then one of Madhavendra Puri's disciple, who due to whatever reasons got little proud of his scholarship, he went to him and told him, why don't you meditate on the Brahman? The Brahman is everywhere, all pervading, right? So when he presented this kind of an impersonal understanding, because in the impersonal state, in the impersonal understanding of the absolute truth, there is no concept of service. There is only infinite peace. But devotion and joy starts beyond peace. So in that impersonal understanding, one cannot access the depths of devotional mellows. So for such a exalted soul who's already immersed in this devotional ecstasy, the suggestion of meditating on the impersonal Brahman, it seemed like hellish pain. And immediately Madhavendra Puri, he literally banishes this fellow, saying, get out of my sight. And eventually, because he offended his spiritual master that way, he became a blasphemer. Wherever he would go, he would keep blaspheming devotees, becoming very, very critical. Later on, he comes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and criticizes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. He has a whole history for some other time. But during those moments of pain, Ishwara Puri was the one who was personally serving him, taking care of him, cleaning his body, cleaning his waste, right? Personally taking care of him. And true to his mood of dedicated, selfless service, right? Because Madhavendra Puri also had many, many scholarly disciples. In fact, you could say Madhavendra Puri was a whole institution in himself. If you look at the long list of exalted devotees, Brahmananda Bharati, Advaitacharya, another great associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, during his travels, Nityananda Prabhu is a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, right? So even Swarup Damodar Goswami, another personal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? Vishnu Puri, Keshav Puri, Krishnananda Puri, Narsimha Tirtha, Paramananda Puri. Like this, there are so many such exalted. Pundarik Vidyanidhi, another great exalted Vaishnava. They were all elderly, senior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. by age. And all of these were disciples of Madhavendra Puri. So you can see each one, we can spend hours discussing the glories of each of these associates, disciples of Madhavendra Puri, scholars, devotional experts. But Ishwara Puri, he was not a scholar. He was not a, like expert in any kind of Vedic or devotional practices. The only qualification Ishwara Puri had, was his humility and service attitude. And so, to access the depths of Srimati Radharani's heart, all we need is humility and service attitude. So, to glorify that mood, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became the disciple of Ishwara Puri, who's a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. And Madhavendra Puri, during his travels, he traveled to many parts, and wherever he would go, all these disciples, it's not that he was sitting in one place and, he had this big matha and everybody was coming from him and taking diksha. And, during his travels, in fact, he built quite a reputation for himself as a very, very exalted Vaishnava. In Vrindavan, he was a very, very reputed personality. He traveled to many other parts of India, especially in the eastern belt, in Bengal, Orissa, and again down south, and going to certain places in Western India also. So during his travels, wherever he would meet some, exalted personalities, or eventually he would inspire them to become exalted, they would actually take diksha from him. And slowly, all over India, he had planted these seeds for this mood of pure devotional service in the mood of loving separation. Setting the perfect scene for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come. And eventually, all of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's initial associates were all the disciples of Srila Madhavendra Puri. He created a perfect framework for Krishna to come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and start the Sankirtan movement. Right? That is how glorious. That is why, Kaviraj Goswami calls him as a seed. The Prathama Ankura, the primal seed for this tree of devotional service is, and the first roots from the seed, then the roots go inside. Ishwara Puri was at root, and the trunk started coming, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and and the entire tree eventually spread like that. So that is a speciality of Srila Madhavendra Puri. And during his travels, one time, and he used to, he was a great yati, he was a person, the great highest standards of renounced order he used to follow. In fact, he used to follow what is called as Ayachana Vritti, sometimes also referred to as the Ajagara Vritti. Ajagar is a python. So if you see a python, it's not one of those aggressive animals that goes and hunts. Pythons are always situated in one place. If some prey happens to come near them, they grab the prey. Right? So this Ajagara Vritti basically means that one doesn't go out and even beg, because a sannyasi, first of all, doesn't have any income. They don't have a job. They don't, grow. They don't sit and start farming and grow their own food, or they don't do any of those things. Right? Their natural way is to go and beg. But Ajagara Vritti is even next level of sannyas, where such personalities, they don't even beg. Rather they whatever comes by its own accord. If somebody happens to proactively go and give some food to them, they take that food. Otherwise, no food. And in that mood, he was traveling in Vrindavan. He went to Govardhan. He was doing his Govardhan Parikrama. Then there's a very, very special place near Govardhan called as Govindakund. And near that Govindakund, one day, Madhavendra Puri sat down and he was meditating on Krishna, in crying in loving separation. And in that mood, suddenly one beautiful young boy came to him and offered him a pot of milk. And he says, "Oh Baba, in our village, nobody starves. Please have this milk." Then he says, "I didn't beg. I didn't even ask anybody. How do you know that I haven't eaten in a long time? Who told you?" Then that was, these ladies who are working here. They told me that some exalted Babaji has come here, and he is looking very tired. So therefore, I brought some milk from home. Please take it. He gives that pot, goes away. Then Madhavendra Puri, because following that, okay, because food came to him, so he thought, okay, blessings, and he had that very milk, and he very nicely washed that pot. And he was looking for that boy. If he happened to be running around in the village again, I'll return the pot to him. So he was waiting, but the boy never came. So slowly, because also he was tired, he drifted off into sleep. And the sleep, that boy again came to him. And they said, "Hey, I am Krishna. You didn't recognize me." And immediately he started feeling so sad in his dream. Oh, my supreme person, Lord has come, my dear Lord has come, but I could not identify him. And instead I took service from him. I could not even thank him properly. But he says, don't worry, I have a service for you. In my form as Gopal, I have this beautiful deity form of mine as Gopal. I have been buried here in a nearby bush. And in his dream, he took him to that exact location. Uncover me out of this and make a beautiful temple for me. So then he wakes up, and as soon as he wakes up, it was not just an ordinary dream. It was a very, very deep, visual, realistic experience that he had. It was not his imagination or some dream. It felt very, very real. Immediately, as soon as he woke up, he called up some local villagers and said, "Hey, I had this kind of a dream." So he took all the villagers to that exact spot, to that bush, and he uncovered that area with the help of some villagers. And behold, they actually found this beautiful deity of Gopal. Immediately, the news spread like wildfire. And, suddenly they all said, yes, we should build a temple for Gopal. Then on top of Govardhan Hill itself, they took Gopal deity on top of this hill. And eventually, one rich businessman from Mathura, he comes and says, I will build the temple. Somebody else said, I will build the walls. I will, arrange for this. Two Brahmanas came out of nowhere and said that, we want to become your disciples. Please, we will take care of the daily seva. Because as a sannyasi, he can't be stationed at one place. He doesn't have any financial support, no support around him. And slowly the villagers, they started donate. Each one started donating one cow, saying this cow will be for the seva of Gopal. Because Krishna means he likes his milk, he likes his dahi, he likes his makhan, right? Where will that come from? So slowly it is said that 10,000 cows got collected. And now temple installation, it's not such an easy task. You need so much of food, so much resources, so much of flowers. You need to do all the yajnas. And so suddenly the villagers, they started, donating food. And some people came as volunteers. And like I said, the news started spreading. So even from nearby villages, many other people started coming and started donating. And in no time, the entire temple got built. The temple installation happened. The deity installation happened. Everything got set. Right? This shows how powerful, when the Lord desires, and more than that, when his pure devotees desire for the seva of the Lord, things just happen. Actually, this is a very, very powerful lesson, because many times we think, moment we think of any service for the Lord, we think of many practical constraints. But actually, when we read the life of these acharyas, we understand that the only thing that we need to do is sincerely and intensely desire. Because ultimately it's the Lord and his energies who are going to manifest things. The only thing that the jiva has in its capacity is its desire, is its free will. That is the only thing that it needs to channelize. Everything else is part of Krishna's energies. Right? Our desire can attract or block Krishna's energies. Right? So, this whole episode, Gopal himself, he arranged through the powerful desire of Madhavendra Puri. And so then, once the temple was installed and the whole festivities happened, so beautiful. And as part of that, beautiful bhogas were offered, this whole big grand Annakut festival. In fact, the legacy of that Annakut is still there today. If you see the Govardhan Puja day, so much of food is offered. That whole tradition has been set by the worship of Gopal that happened on top of Govardhan Hill. set by Madhavendra Puri. So he has given that very, very special cultural aspect too. And then later, one day again, Gopal came in the dream of Madhavendra Puri, saying that for so many years I have been under this mud pit, and through all the seasons, especially Govardhan, it gets very, very hot. My body is still very hot. Please get me some chandan. And the best quality chandan is available in Odisha near Jagannath Puri Dham. The Malaya mountains are there, so there the chandan is very, very special. So he says, go there and get me chandan from there. Now in retrospect, when we hear this story, you will say, oh, Lord's dream came and he went to buy chandan. But think about it. Imagine tomorrow you go to some, let's say there's some wedding in your family and you have to go buy some jewelry. So you go to some jewelry shop. And in the jewelry shop, you find a sannyasi doing some shopping. Right? What will be the first thought in your head? Definitely he's a dhongi baba. He's a fake, but he's an imposter. Right? Because what does sannyasi has to do with gold? They are supposed to have renounced all that. Right? So sannyasi should never be in shopping, or even something mundane like you go to some supermarket and you see the sannyasi is shopping some groceries there. Somebody in sannyasi attire is shopping some groceries. So clearly you will judge that person, right? And yet, despite the potential to be judged, Madhavendra Puri, not even for a second, he questioned that Lord's instruction. Hey, I am a sannyasi. How can I go and shop for sandalwood? Because sandalwood is an item of luxury, like perfumes and essential oils are all made from sandalwood, right? So how can I go and do shopping for sandalwood? Because that time, mainly the traders, this mass trade, in a lot of sandalwood exports also used to happen that time. So it's like a very, very precious commodity, like a luxury commodity. So Madhavendra Puri didn't even for a moment think, oh, I'm a sannyasi. Is it right for me to go and do shopping? Right? And this is the greatness of Madhavendra Puri. He renounced renunciation. The external order of renunciation, because if you think about it, sometimes a renunciate can become attached to their renunciation. Right? You see how tricky the mind and the ego can be. Right? So Madhavendra Puri, even for a fraction of a second, he did not think, hey, what will people think if I go and do shopping? He just saw the purpose of renunciation is to serve the Lord. If the Lord is giving me instruction, I will be protected. Without even, because at that point, he could have thought, oh, I've been this wandering traveler all these years. But now at least I got some stability. I got my own temple. I got my own matha. Right? Maybe I can just stay back here. I'm also old now. Right? I have some stability. I have some disciples. Right? And he could have used a legit reason that, Gopal is here. He came in my dream and he is the one who asked me to bring him out and serve him. So I can stay back here. Maybe I can send some grahastha, because he had so many such, under his influence, so many business people were also there. He could have sent some businessmen, but he said, no. The Lord came in my dream and he instructed me. So he immediately leaves everything there, starts walking. Right? He didn't even take a flight or anything. He just started walking towards Bengal, right? From Govardhan, from Vrindavan. And that's when during that tenure, he went through, if you can visualize the Indian map from Mathura, he went all the way along the banks of Yamuna and then to Ganga, along and then enter into Bengal. And from Bengal, he came all the way down south towards Orissa to Jagannath Puri. And during the time in Bengal is when he met Advaita Acharya, and he planted the seeds of pure devotional service in the whole of the Bengal region. And then when he came and when he was crossing Bengal, entering into northern Orissa, there's a very, very special place called as Ramuna. And in that place, Ramuna, there's a special temple of Gopinath. Now, this deity of Gopinath of Ramuna is also very, very special. It is said that one day in Treta Yuga, Lord Ram was sitting, and he just, when Sita and Ram were in exile that time, it is said that Lord Ram one day closed his eyes and he started laughing. Ha ha ha, he started laughing. Then Mother Sita asked, "What happened, my lord? Why are you laughing? What are you remembering?" Thinking, "Oh, I'm thinking about my pastimes in my future. When I come back as Lord Krishna, I'm thinking about my sweet, cute pastimes that I'm going to do in that form as Krishna, and I'm laughing." And Lord Ram describes the form of Krishna, and Mother Sita gets captivated. "Oh my God, this is such a beautiful form of yours. Can you please carve this form?" But it said that Lord Ram, with his arrow on the stone, he carved this beautiful deity of Krishna known as Gopinath, as the master of the gopis. And that deity continued, and that is there today in the modern day city of Ramuna. Very, very tiny city, very beautiful town. If you ever happen to travel to that part of India, please go stop there. Right? Why? You will know now. Because in that place, Ramuna, there's a special offering that they offer to Ramuna Gopinath. It's called as Amrit Keli. It's a special kind of sweet rice. Very, very fragrant, very special sweet rice. In fact, if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, he describes, Kaviraj Goswami also describes that Amrit Keli. So then, Madhavendra Puri, he goes to take darshan of Gopinath, and when that offering was going on, he notices, "Oh, if I can get a pot of that Amrit Keli," because Madhavendra Puri was, he, from the taste, he could sense the whole recipe. "If I can get one pot of that, then I can make this for my Lord Gopal in Govardhan." But then immediately he curses himself, saying, "How could I think about it? The bhoga is being offered to the Lord, right? The food is being offered to the Lord, and I'm thinking of enjoying it and tasting it. What kind of a condemned thought I got?" He leaves the temple and goes away into the outside into the town. Meanwhile, the priest, he offers the kheer, the sweet rice, and then he removes the offering. For the afternoon, he closes the altar. The priest also is taking rest. And now, in the priest's dream, Gopinath comes and says, "Hey, my dear priest, by the way, I stole one pot of kheer today. You offered around 16 pots. I don't know if you noticed, you got only 15, because one I stole and put it behind my legs. Because there is a special devotee named Madhavendra Puri. Go find him. He's somewhere in the marketplace. Go find him and give this pot. And tell him I have given it to him." Right? And so immediately the priest, he never had a dream like that. And, it is such a vivid experience. Immediately opens the altar, which is not to be done, but he broke the protocol, opened the altar because it was an extraordinary event. And he sees actually there is one full pot right behind the feet of the deities. Immediately he takes that pot, goes into the market, loudly shouting, "Oh, Madhavendra Puri, oh exalted soul, where are you? Where are you? Gopinath has stolen kheer for you." Right? So that, because stealing is called chor. So kheer, chor, Gopinath. So eventually that deity became famous as Kheer Chor Gopinath. So today, if you go to Ramuna, he is known as Kheer Chor Gopinath. The Lord Gopinath Krishna who stole sweet rice for his pure devotee Madhavendra Puri. Right? We've heard of Krishna stealing butter for himself. He is Makhan Chor. But now this is very, very special. Krishna stole this time not for himself, but for his pure devotee Madhavendra Puri. And immediately, the entire city of Ramuna started echoing with, "Who is this great soul? Who is this great soul?" And, by nature is very, very humble. Somehow, to honor the Lord's instruction, very secretly he comes and whispers to him, I am that Madhavendra Puri. Immediately the priest offers him his obeisances and says, here, Lord has given this for you, right? And so he takes that, he tastes it, and with great delight. In fact, it is said that Madhavendra Puri never disposed that cup. That time they had this earthen cups, kullats. So he actually ground the cup, made powder of it, and made a whole cloth pouch and always carried that with him every day, tasting a small speck of the earth from that pot. Now, you see, this is also a very important thing. Sometimes when some plate of Mahaprasad comes and there are so many things, usually when we are given the choice, we will pick maybe the gulab jamun or some exotic, some samosa, or some exotic food we like to always pick from the Mahaprasad plate, right? But how many of us, with the same level of devotion, will pick up that leaf cup, that patal, and say, oh, this patal was also offered to the Lord. The Lord has touched it. When the Lord is eating, not only did he touch the food, he also touched the cup. The cup is also exalted. Let me eat the leaf of that cup plate, of the leaf cup. That we never think about that, right? Because we eat for our tongue and for our belly, right? But the pure devotional standard of Madhavendra Puri, not only did he honor the kheer, but even the cup he saved, and every day he used to eat, for the rest of his life, he used to eat small pieces of that cup, right? And eventually, he continued his journey down. With great difficulty, he bargained, he brought all logs and logs of sandalwood. And when he was going on his way back, again, Lord came in his dream. This is the third time. Remember the first time, bring me out after drinking milk. The second time, I'm feeling very hot, I need some chandan. But the third time, again, he comes in his dream and says, you are getting too old, Madhavendra Puri. I don't want you to come all the way till Govardhan. Settle down in Ramuna. Gopinath's body and my body are non-different. So kindly offer this chandan, this sandalwood paste, to the body of Gopinath, and I will feel the cooling effect from there in Govardhan. And eventually, Madhavendra Puri, he lived, because he was getting very, very extremely old, and he, as Lord instructed him, he told him, don't travel now from the place of Ramuna. He spent the rest of his life serving the deities of Gopinath. Eventually, if you go, very, very beautiful. It's a very tiny town, very strong spiritual vibes there. There is this beautiful temple of Kirchor Gopinath, and right behind the temple, you will see the Samadhi, the eventual resting place of Srila Madhavendra Puri. So that is the glories of Srila Madhavendra Puri, that it is said that, when he sets Prabhupada writes that he sets the gold standard for devotional service. Because service without personal considerations is what is exemplified by the life of Srila Madhavendra Puri. He did not think about, oh, I'm an old man, should I travel now or not? Maybe I can just delegate the work and get it done. Oh, I'm a sannyasi, should I do all this now? Is it right etiquette? Right? This is the mood of complete surrender. Right? Because many times when we think of the word surrender, what motivates us towards the path of surrender is a potential gain. But when there is so much to lose, we immediately hesitate. The word surrender sounds very scary to us, right? But here, Madhavendra Puri, he exemplifies this very, very beautiful characteristic where, even it means going through a lot of personal inconvenience, but for the pleasure of the Lord, I'm willing to do anything. I'm willing to sacrifice anything. And that is why he is that seed of the tree of devotional service, of which eventually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became the trunk, right? So the entire Gaudiya Vaishnava mood of this service in separation, if you think about it, in his entire life, he was serving Gopal in separation. even till the last minute in Gopinath, he saw Gopal, but finally it was in separation. He was always in separation. In that mood of separation, he eventually left his body thinking about his Gopal in Govardhan. Right? And just some trivia facts. That same Gopal, which Madhavendra Puri found, is today the famous Nathji of Srinathji of Nathdwara. So, if you are familiar with the Pushti Marga tradition, he's the most worshipable deity in that tradition. So eventually, a lot of things happened, and at one point, the deity was brought down because there were some invaders, and eventually from there, he moved south, so eventually settled in Nathdwara. But the history of that Nathdwara Srinathji today is the dear Gopal of Madhavendra Puri. So that's interesting. So he is famous. He's a very, very famous deity. We know about Srinathji, but nobody knows the connection to Madhavendra Puri, right? So he is the one who found the deity, and eventually it was that Gopal, Nathji, is who Madhavendra Puri was serving all his life in separation, and set the tone for eventually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come and teach this mood of service in separation, which eventually the Goswamis, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they furthered it. And today we have access to that mood of devotional service in the rich culture and practice of Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. All right. So these are a few thoughts which I wanted to share in connection to Madhavendra Puri. I know this is a kind of a class where I don't think there can be any questions, but if anybody still wants to add something, if you want to share any insights, any realizations, please feel free to unmute yourself and you can share. All right. Okay.
It was absolutely amazing. I mean, my family, or we all believe in Srinathji, and I had zero idea about this story that you just said. And I'm now looking forward to share this. So every Sunday, my family, we have a little satsang, just few of us. We discuss general topics. So yes, this is going to be my topic of story, and I'm going to share with my family. And it's like absolutely amazing.
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always good to.
I just so beautifully connected. And when you came down to that, I'm like, okay. And the fun fact, it's like, oh my God, really? It's just so beautiful because we've heard that this was the story that he did come down, the little bit of the story. But
Right.
there is so much more to it, that way, which of course I didn't know. So thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you. Preeti ji, do you want to ask your question or comment something?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. Thank you for wonderful session.
Hari.
Prabhuji, I don't know if it is related to this topic that you had, but you mentioned about Ram Bhagwan, talking about his appearance as Gopal, and then he carved that deity. I had heard some pastor where Ram Bhagwan credited to Sita Maya about his advent as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, but I'm not clear with that past tense. So, if it is okay, if you know, you can please share.
I mean, see, for us, it should not be surprising because the absolute truth, if when we discuss that whole Gaur Leela episode, right? If in fact one of
Yes.
Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, he also says Sab Avatara Sara Shiromani, right?
Yes.
Keval Anandakana. So the essence of all the avatars, the moods of every avatara, you will see in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because Mahaprabhu has
Yes.
associates from every pastime. Like Hanuman comes as Murari Gupta.
Yes.
Right? Like that. So every pastime, every avatar that we know of, they all collectively come together for this grand crescendo of Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So
Yes.
it's not surprising that these different pastimes have been predicted. Even Lord Krishna also, he predicted even in Goloka, this form of Krishna approaching Chimti Radharani in the mood of a sannyasi. So there are
Yes.
some, these esoteric pastimes that predict the appearance of Mahaprabhu. But then these are nice. These are, important for us to build our initial connection. But eventually our connection should focus on the teachings that Mahaprabhu gave. That philosophy of Achyuta Veda Tattva that Mahaprabhu gave, our focus should, our connection to Mahaprabhu can be deepened through these very, that's why in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you will not see, when the advent of Mahaprabhu is described, or the proof of Mahaprabhu as a Supreme Personality of God is described, he doesn't get into these, these episodes or these pastimes. He quotes Siddhanta, he quotes specific verses from the Shastras to predict or to show the supremacy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as that avatari. He is not just an ordinary avatar, but he is the avatari himself, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, there are many such references, but I would say it's good to focus on those references which are there in Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay.
That would be my short answer to this.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Yeah. Yes, Parthasarathy Prabhu, would you like to add something?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much for this wonderful session.
Hari.
Prabhuji, my question was like regarding the parampara system, like Madhavendra Puri belonging to our parampara. Like there are some questions which are raised, which I heard earlier. So how can we approach this parampara? Like we see some great devotees also like not belonging to parampara, and we hear like we should not hear from parampara or follow them. So how we can approach this when we hear all these things?
So the confusion many times that has been created is that Madhavendra Puri, sometimes people ascribe he has taken sannyasa in the Advaita tradition, in the Shankara Sampradaya. Now we have to understand the concept of sannyasa was very popular in, for example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, if you see, Keshav Bharati, he belonged to the Bharati Sampradaya, which is one of the, I think, the 11 different Shankara's traditions. Right? Why? Because, sometimes you may, to get acceptance in the mainstream circle, you may want to go do your degree from Harvard or MIT or something, even though you know that they are highly atheistic or highly motivated by, influenced by certain leftist philosophies or atheistic philosophies, etc. But still, to gain some public acceptance, you may go do your, degree from there, right? So like that, even though the Advaita tradition, sannyas in the Advaita tradition was a very popular thing that time, like how Mahaprabhu also took. But when we talk about who is Mahaprabhu's spiritual master, we don't say Keshav Bharati, but we say Ishvara Puri. Likewise, Madhavendra Puri also, Lakshmipati, if you see our the parampara tradition that that Prabhupada gives in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, right? And there are a lot of academic books also, if you go into the depth. For example, one of Prabhupada's god brothers, O.B.L. Kapoor, he writes this book, The Philosophy and Religion of Sri Chaitanya. That's something like this. So in that book, he writes how it is, he raises the specific point. He says actually a very absurd argument, because even certain external connections of, because the sannyas order he may have taken from there, but look at his mood, look at his teachings, right? In fact, to even call him as somebody connected to the Madhva tradition also will be a little bit of an understatement, right? Not an incorrect statement, because he is that seed of the tree of the mood of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So therefore, our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas make it very clear that we don't see, in fact, if you see the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition also, it is a tradition of transfer of the mood. The mood is what is important in a tradition. Yes, there are the externals also, but the mood is what that makes a parampara alive, and that is what is more highlighted. So definitely he is as Vaishnava as you can think of, and definitely there's no confusion about his sannyas from the Shankara tradition. Hope that clarifies, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So we'll end here. And I think there are a lot of festivities coming up. So maybe next class also we'll have some interesting festive class in that regard. All right. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.